Good morning, guys. So obviously I'm not in my classroom. This thing's gonna have to be a little bit different here for from now on. And so we'll see after the break, but I want to do something a little bit different before Easter break. We've got a little activity we're going to do. I'm going to explain in a second, but first I wanted to answer your questions from this past week's video. One of the things I wanted to hit before that is one of the questions I asked was if you had a compaction or a concretion of your bowels, how would that feel and where would it hurt? A lot of you guys said in your colon or in your rectum, and that's not really what I was trying to get at, because yeah, you guys are smart enough to know where your colon is and where your rectum is because you watched that video, but what I meant was, where on your body would you feel it? Yeah, you feel your rectum, but do you feel your rectum or do you feel your lower abdomen and things like that? So I just want to think about, what I was trying to get at is a compaction is usually going to be with pain in your left lower quadrant of your abdomen, because that's going to be the end of your colon or your sigmoid colon. It's kind of what I was aiming for. But just something to think about for the future if you have stomach pains or things like that. First thing I'm going to do is go through real quick and just answer some of the questions from this past week's video, and then I'm going to explain what we're going to do this week. So Michael asks, can your body not digest corn, and why not if it is so? So what your body actually does with corn when you eat whole kernel corn is it digests the inside part, the creamy part, the sugary part of the corn, and the outside part is called chitin, chitin, and it's a cellulose product that is the same carbohydrate, the same material that makes up bugs' exoskeletons. So it's really hard to digest, and our body just doesn't spend time digesting it, and so it just passes on through. So anytime you eat that, it's also why our body's not really good at like eating grass. If you try to eat grass for survival, it'll just go through your body. We don't have time to digest it enough to get any energy out of it. Okay. Then we had a lot of people didn't ask questions. Ask questions, guys, and make it fun. Boo asked, can large intestines absorb too much water? Short answer is no. What your large intestine is doing is getting the water back that you put into your food. So there's no way that your large intestines can get too much water. I mean, your large intestine can't get too much water. You can make your stool, your feces, too hard to pass through the rectum, and that would be a problem, but usually that's very, very, very rare, and that has to do with people who hold their bowels without going to the bathroom and things like that, and not necessarily reabsorbing too much water. So short answer to that question, no, you cannot reabsorb too much water. All right, rolling on through. Nora asked, what have I been doing during quarantine? A lot of people say they're bored and stuff. I am not bored. I've been working harder these past 2 weeks than any normal week. I've been doing all the stuff for school, which I really enjoy doing. The more you guys put into it, the more fun it'll be. So keep up with that. But also, I've been working at school every day up till today. Today was the first day I didn't actually go to school and help load the buses with food. There were big, heavy things. I'm a big dude, and so I've tried to load them as much as I could. They said they didn't want me out anymore, so I'm hoping that they're doing good today on loading that stuff. I'm certainly missing being at school. I'd much rather be at school than anywhere else. I planted my garden. I cleaned up my yard. I've been doing a lot of cleaning up around the house. I started a new Zelda Breath of the Wild campaign, and probably have another 30 or 40 hours on that because I'm stupid. And reading, I've started a new book, Salvatore's Demon Wars books. Watching a lot of movies. If you're interested in that, follow me on Letterboxd online, and you can find out all the movies I'm watching. And I watched Tiger King. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so Emily asked, you kind of brushed over the pancreas, but I thought the pancreas was super important because pancreatic cancer is super deadly. So yeah, I apologize for going past the pancreas really fast. I did go past the pancreas entirely too fast, mainly because I was running out of time, and the pancreas is important for digestion, but that was something that was pretty easily skippable. Pancreas is super important for your body. You're not living without your pancreas. ask a type 1 diabetic to see if you can live without your pancreas. Your pancreas controls your sugar levels. Pancreas aids in digestion, does all kinds of different things for your body. It is very, very important. Now, that is a different question than the second one that Emily's alluding to here. Pancreatic cancer is super deadly, but it's not because the pancreas is super important. Okay, let me explain what I mean. Remember, when you have cancer of any type, you're just making the same cell over and over again. And so when you have cancer in the pancreas, you're actually getting more pancreas, and your pancreas actually works better. So you don't get a symptom of having pancreatic cancer in the pancreas like you would, for example, in the lungs. In the lungs, you might cough up some blood or have some shortness of breath because you're taking what should be open space and filling it with cells. In the pancreas, you want those cells. And so having those cells is a good thing. And so the problem with pancreatic cancer is that there are no symptoms of it. And usually it only shows up when the tumor gets so big, it actually compresses the bile duct or the hepatic artery, and you get liver symptoms rather than pancreatic symptoms. And so by that point that you actually have symptoms, it's usually too late to stop the spread of the cancer. And so a lot of times a pancreatic cancer diagnosis is a very, very bad deal because they catch it so late, and it's so hard to roll back the clock on that cancer. And that's why it's pretty deadly. If you get somebody with a pancreatic cancer diagnosis, for example, Patrick Swayze or your Robbie Rotten fella, it could be a relatively young dude that gets taken out pretty quick just because it's spread so far. I had a friend of mine who actually had a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer that they caught while they were doing surgery of a appendicitis. And it was early enough that he had a really bad version of it, but it was early enough that they were actually able to save his life and put him into remission. And he's been 3 years in remission now with no new cancer because they caught it so early. Good question though, Emily. All right, rolling on past. Emily Dykes asks, why does your board say justice for Don Lewis? That question is going to be answered in someone else's question, and that is Lily's question, which is, have you watched Tiger King? If so, what's your opinions? Yes, I watched Tiger King, and if you watched the video last week, you saw my two things I wrote on the board: justice for Don Lewis and free Joe Exotic. Justice for Don Lewis because, man, Carol Baskin done killed that man. I don't know if she killed him, but she definitely knows who killed him, and she was involved, and she's out there walking free, and that's rough. Otherwise, my opinions on the show is that these folks are wild. From an environmental science conservation standpoint, I mean, I guess they're, in my opinion, they're not really hurting anything because they are taking endangered species and making more of them. Now, from a cruelty to animals perspective, obviously it'd be nice to have tigers have open space and have more space, but you also look at people like seeing animals, and if you see animals, if you raise awareness, then are you raising more awareness for people to save those animals in the wild? Now, the biggest problem it seems like that they have with the show is raising baby cubs to breeding baby cubs and then euthanizing them when they're too old and they're not worth anything to you. Obviously, that's pretty rough. I will say, though, I believe the problem would be in the people willing to pay to take pictures with baby cubs rather than the people willing to raise those baby cubs to take those pictures. If the demand stopped, then the reasoning for those people to do that would also stop. So I think that attacking Joe Exotic and that other crazy man in Myrtle Beach is going about it the wrong way. That we should look at ourselves and say, do we really want to take a picture cuddling up with a baby tiger? Kind of like what they did with dolphins. People stopped swimming with dolphins. There was no money in it, and so it kind of ended that dolphin trade. But same thing there. But there's Tiger King. And finally, Hiba asked about how does dysentery work. So dysentery, I mentioned a little bit about cholera in the video. And the two big diarrhea diseases that you can have are dysentery and cholera. Cholera is very specific. It's from a bug called Vibrio cholerae that you get from drinking water, and it goes into your large intestine and pretty much just turns it off. turns off your large intestine so that you just dump water like crazy. You have to rehydrate, you have to get some antibiotics in there, and you have to stop that bug because eventually you're not going to be able to hydrate fast enough to keep up with it and you die. Dysentery is a little bit more broad. Dysentery is any diarrhea disease that is causing inflammation of your large intestine. Usually dysentery, the big difference is dysentery is associated with bleeding diarrhea. So any infection of your large intestine that's going to be causing that inflammation can cause that, that bleeding diarrhea. And so that's where you end up with dysentery. A lot of times it can come from amoebas, E. coli, salmonella, shigella, a bunch of different bugs that infect your large intestine, cause that bloody diarrhea. It could be really, really bad deals, painful and dehydrating diseases, and antibiotics do a great thing for that, or antiparasitics for the amoebic dysentery. But thank you guys so much for paying close attention to digestive, and that was kind of the last new anatomy stuff I want to do before spring break. So for these next few days, I'm going to do something a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a discussion board on Canvas. And we're going to spend these next few days, and maybe even some time after spring break or during spring break, but certainly after spring break, on looking at ethics, looking at the ethics of anatomy and healthcare, and exploring some of our positions on those ethics. You guys are looking out because during this time in a normal year, we would write a paper, 5-page paper where you take a position and you take a stance, but we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to do it as a discussion board. And what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you ask a tough question when it comes to an ethical dilemma in anatomy or healthcare or research or something like that. And I'll post some possible topics. And I want you to answer other people's. So start a dialogue. I thought about saying, hey, I want you to post one question and answer 2 other people's questions, but I don't want to put a limit on it. So I want you to have a dialogue. I want you to answer a bunch. So if you want to say, ooh, what does Mr. Tyre actually want me to do? Then yeah, let's put that limit. Ask one question and answer 2 other people's questions, okay? But do more. Do more. Have a conversation, have a dialogue, have a back and forth where you play devil's advocate when someone answers a question. I'll put more details on the internet for that, but I hope you guys are being safe. I hope you guys are staying home. Hope you guys are reading a lot of books, growing your mind. I know this is a tough senior year and it's challenging, but you guys are unique in that most people don't have this opportunity to do the things that you guys are going to be able to do. So realize I'm thinking about you. If you need anything, text me, email me, call me, whatever you need to do. Thank you guys for taking part, and I really miss you, and hopefully we'll see you soon.